I never thought discipline could find me. Not in my father's house. Not in my life. I was born into comfort so deep that struggle felt like a story meant for other people. From the moment I could talk, things moved when I spoke. Doors opened. Plates appeared. Voices softened around me. I did not learn patience because waiting was never required. I did not learn respect because everyone feared my reaction. Our house stood in the city like it knew it was important. The walls were high, the gate heavy, and the compound wide enough to swallow noise. Inside, maids moved quietly, careful not to upset me. If my water was warm, I complained. If food came late, I shouted. If someone answered me slowly, I snapped. People called me confident. Others called me rude. I did not care what anyone called me. At school, teachers tolerated me because my parents were respected. Punishments disappeared the moment my name was mentioned. I learned early that money could erase consequences. That knowledge made me bold. Too bold. At home, my parents watched in silence. They spoke softly, prayed often, and worried deeply. I noticed their fear but mistook it for weakness. I thought I was untouchable. I was wrong. That morning began like every other morning. I woke up late. I complained about breakfast. I ignored greetings. I did not know it would be the last normal day of my old life. By nightfall, everything I believed about power would begin to crack. My mother noticed the change before anyone else. She always did. She used to watch me quietly as I moved around the house. Phone in hand, voice sharp, patience thin. Sometimes, I caught her staring at me with a sad look that made me uncomfortable. I would roll my eyes and walk away. "Charity, greet properly," she often said. "I did," I replied, even when I had not. My father noticed too, but he spoke less. In public, he was respected. In church, people listened when he spoke about discipline and humility. At home, he struggled to recognize the daughter he was raising. One evening, a family friend visited. She barely finished greeting before I corrected her seat harshly. "Why are you sitting there?" I snapped. "That place is not for visitors." The room went silent. My father stood up slowly. "Charity," he said, his voice firm. I shrugged. What did I say wrong? The woman left early, embarrassed. My mother did not speak. She only stared at the floor. That night, my parents argued quietly behind closed doors. I heard my name, then silence, then muffled prayers. I did not care. I believed they would forget it by morning, just like everything else. I slept peacefully, wrapped in soft sheets, certain that nothing could touch me. I did not know a decision had been made. A decision that would remove comfort from my hands and replace it with rules, pain, and lessons I had avoided all my life. The next day, my father called me into the sitting room. Both my parents were seated. No smiles, no phones, no distractions. That alone made my stomach tighten. "What is it?" I asked, folding my arms. My father spoke slowly. "Charity, we have decided to send you to boarding school." I laughed. A sharp, careless laugh. "That's not funny." My mother stood up. "We are serious." The room felt smaller. "You can't do that," I said. "I'm not a village girl." The words hung heavy in the air. My father's face hardened. "Watch your mouth." "So this is punishment?" I shouted. "Because of church people? Because of gossip?" My mother's eyes filled with tears. "We are trying to save you." "Save me from what?" I yelled. "Comfort." I stormed out and slammed my door. I cried, screamed, and threw things around my room. I felt betrayed. I felt angry. I felt afraid. Days passed. Forms were filled. Calls were made. I refused to cooperate. I insulted everyone. Nothing changed. One name kept coming up in hushed tones. Sapel House. And one woman, Mrs. Affamanta. People said she feared no one. I laughed when I heard it. "They can't change me," I said aloud. I truly believed that. The day we left arrived too quickly. I packed my bags with anger, complaining about every item. "Why so many clothes? Am I going to prison?" I asked. No one answered. The drive was silent. The city lights faded as we moved farther away. When the school gates appeared, my heart skipped. The buildings were tall and serious. No bricked galers. No noise. Students walked in straight lines. Fear crept in, slow and cold. My mother hugged me tightly. "Remember who you are," she whispered. I did not hug back. "You will regret this," I said. Then I saw her, Mrs. Affamanta. She was calm, neatly dressed, and quiet, yet everything about her demanded attention. She did not shout. She did not smile. "Carry your box properly," she said without turning. I struggled with the weight. At home, someone else would have lifted it. Here, nobody moved. "This is not a hotel," she said calmly. "This is Sapel House." The dormitory was clean and strict. Beds aligned. Shoes arranged. No freedom. "That bed is yours," she said, pointing near the door. "Why there?" I asked. "So you can learn to wake up fast." I wanted to argue, but something stopped me. For the first time in my life, my voice felt small. The bell rang 10 minutes later. "Assembly," someone announced. I rushed, confused and unprepared. Everyone stood straight. No talking. No laughter. My legs ached. My pride burned. That night, another bell rang. Prep time. I stared at my books, tired and angry. At home, I never studied like this. Here, silence ruled. The next morning, duties were assigned. "Sweep the dormitory," a prefect told me. I laughed. "You must be joking." "I'm not," she replied softly. I refused. That was my first punishment. Mrs. Affamanta looked at me calmly. "You will learn," she said. Extra duties followed. No excuses. No shouting back. That night, I cried quietly into my pillow. I missed my bed. I missed shouting and being obeyed. I missed comfort. I tried my old habits. Rolling my eyes. Talking back. Complaining loudly. Nothing worked. Each time I failed, punishment followed. For the first time in my life, consequences did not disappear. As I lay on the hard mattress, staring at the ceiling, a frightening thought crossed my mind. What if this place did not break me? What if it changed me instead? That question kept me awake long after the lights went out, by the end of my first week. My body hurt in places I never knew existed. Waking up before sunrise felt cruel. The bell did not care if I was tired or angry. It rang, loud and final. Each morning, I dragged myself out of bed while others moved with calm speed. I hated how normal it looked to them. Sweeping became my enemy. The broom felt heavy in my hands. My back ached, and sweat soaked my uniform. At home, I never lifted a finger. Here, dirt did not fear my name. One afternoon, I complained loudly while sweeping. "This floor is never clean," I said. Mrs. Affamanta appeared behind me like the air had carried her. "Sweep again," she said. I opened my mouth to argue, but her eyes stopped me. They were not angry. They were steady. That night, I watched other girls laugh softly as they folded clothes together. No one ordered them. No one shouted. I felt strange, like an outsider looking through glass. I told myself I did not belong there. Still, something confused me. No matter how stubborn I was, the rules did not bend. No one rushed to please me. No one feared my anger. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling smaller than I ever had. For the first time, I wondered if my old power had only existed because others allowed it. The real breaking point came during my second week. A junior girl accidentally touched my bucket while fetching water. Water spilled on my shoes. Without thinking, I shouted at her. "Are you blind?" I snapped. Her eyes filled with tears. She apologized quickly, shaking. I felt powerful again. That feeling I missed rushed back. Then I heard a calm voice. "Apologize." I turned. Mrs. Affamanta stood there. I folded my arms. "I won't." The compound went silent. She did not shout. She did not threaten. She only nodded. "Follow me." My punishment was heavy. I knelt under the sun for hours. My knees burned. My throat dried. Later, I swept the compound until my arms shook. I missed lunch. Students whispered as they passed. Some laughed. Some looked away. During it all, Mrs. Offamanta watched from a distance. Not with anger, with something else. Concern. That confused me more than punishment. That night I cried quietly. Not loud cries. Soft ones. The kind that come when pride cracks. I wanted to hate her. But deep inside, I knew something important had happened. For the first time, someone had chosen discipline over my tears. Weeks passed, slow and heavy. I stopped fighting every rule because fighting only brought pain. I learned to sweep properly. I learned to fold my clothes neatly. I learned to wake up before the bell rang. It shocked me how my hands adjusted, how my body remembered routines. One evening, after duties, Mrs. Offamanta called me aside. My heart raced, expecting punishment. "You are improving," she said. I froze. No one had praised me like that in a long time. Not without fear. Not without conditions. "Thank you, Ma," I whispered. That night, I lay awake, thinking about her words. I thought about my parents, about my old room, about how I used to shout. Some days I still slipped. I talked back. I rolled my eyes. Each time discipline followed. Each time I learned. Then I fell sick. Fever burned through my body. I felt weak and dizzy. That evening, Mrs. Offamanta brought my food herself. "Eat," she said softly.
Isterte her.
"You care." She gave a small smile. Discipline without care is cruelty. Tears filled my eyes. That was the moment my heart truly began to change. After I recovered, something inside me felt lighter. I started greeting people properly. At first, it felt strange, like wearing someone else's shoes. But soon it felt right. Juniors no longer avoided me. Some even smiled. One morning, a small girl greeted me. "Good morning, Senior Charity." I smiled back. "Good morning." The warmth in my chest surprised me. Felt better than shouting. During inspection one afternoon, Mrs. Offamanta stopped at my locker. She opened it slowly, clothes folded, shoes aligned. "Well done," she said. My throat tightened. I nodded, unable to speak. Leadership week came and I was appointed a group leader. The old me wanted to shout, to command, to enjoy power. I hesitated. "Let's finish this together," I told my group calmly. They stared at me surprised. Work went slowly, but it went well.
No tears. No fights.
That night, I sat on my bed and laughed softly. I was changing, not because I was forced, but because I finally understood. Near the end of term, I visited Mrs. Offamanta. "I'm tired of rules," I said honestly. "I feel like I've lost myself." She listened without interrupting. "Do you think discipline removes who you are?" she asked. I shrugged. "When water is dirty," she said, "you wash the pot. You don't throw it away." Her words stayed with me. That night, I wrote a letter to my parents. My hands shook as I apologized. For the shouting, for the pride, for the pain. When the term ended, my parents came to pick me up. My mother hugged me and cried. My father smiled, proud and quiet. As we drove home, I looked out the window, thinking about the girl I used to be. She had everything, but she knew nothing. I smiled softly, because the girl returning home was stronger. Not because she had money, but because she had learned respect. Coming home felt strange. My old room was still soft and quiet, but it no longer felt like a kingdom. I noticed things I had ignored before. The way the maids worked without rest. The way my mother watched me closely, afraid to speak too much. The first morning back, breakfast was late. I opened my mouth to complain, then stopped. Everyone froze, waiting for my reaction. "It's okay," I said instead. "I can wait." My mother stared at me like she had seen a ghost. Later that day, visitors came. I greeted them properly and offered seats. My father watched from the corner, silent and proud. But change was not as easy as it looked. Sometimes my old habits returned. I snapped at a maid once and immediately felt sick with shame. That night, I cried quietly, remembering Mrs. Offamanta's words. When school resumed, returning to boarding school felt different. I walked through the gate with less fear and more understanding. Sapel House did not feel like punishment anymore, felt like training, and I was ready to face the next lesson, even though I did not know it would be the hardest one yet. Second term began with new pressure. We were seniors now. Expectations were higher. Duties doubled. Time moved faster. I struggled. Leadership was no longer a test of obedience but of patience. Girls argued. Work slowed. Complaints rose. One afternoon, I lost my temper and shouted. The silence afterward hurt more than punishment. Mrs. Offamanta called me later. "You forgot something," she said. I bowed my head. "Respect." She nodded. That night I apologized to my group. It was hard. My pride resisted, but my heart insisted. They forgave me. Slowly, trust grew. I began helping juniors with homework. Teaching forced me to learn better. My grades improved. Teachers noticed. For the first time, I worked not for praise but for growth. One evening, my father visited unexpectedly. He watched me sweep the compound without complaint. His eyes filled with tears. "I don't recognize you," he said softly. I smiled. "I'm still me, Daddy, just cleaner inside." Midterm tests arrived. I failed my first paper. The old me would have blamed the teacher. This time, I blamed myself. I studied harder. Nights became longer. My eyes burned. My hands shook with tiredness. Friends helped me revise. We laughed quietly, sharing biscuits and dreams. When results came out, I passed. Not excellently, but honestly. I cried. Mrs. Offamanta saw me and nodded once. That nod meant more than applause. During inter-house chores week, stress returned. Tempers flared. A junior spilled water again. I paused. Instead of shouting, I helped her clean up. She smiled, relieved. That smile reminded me of how far I had come. I realized something important. Discipline did not kill my joy. It taught me how to protect it. The biggest test came unexpectedly. A new girl arrived. Rich, loud, proud. She reminded me of myself. She insulted juniors, refused duties, and mocked rules. Students complained. Punishments followed. Nothing changed. One evening, Mrs. Offamanta called me. "Talk to her," she said. I was afraid. I found the girl crying in the dormitory. I sat beside her and told my story, not as a warning, as truth. She listened quietly. "I don't want to change," she whispered. "I didn't either," I replied. Weeks passed. She struggled, but slowly, she softened. Helping her felt like healing myself. I understood then why Mrs. Offamanta watched with concern instead of anger. She had seen many girls like us, and she believed in what time and discipline could do. As term ended, I stood before the mirror again. I looked older, stronger, not because life had become easier, but because I had. During closing assembly, Mrs. Offamanta spoke. "Character is what remains when comfort is removed," she said. Her eyes met mine. At home during holidays, people noticed the difference. Friends whispered. Relatives smiled. I still liked nice things. I still enjoyed comfort, but I no longer depended on it. One night, my mother hugged me tightly. "Boarding school saved you," she said.
No, irraplia sufli.
It taught me. As I prepared to return for final term, I felt grateful. Not for punishment, but for the chance to become someone better. And I knew my journey was not over, because real tests do not end in school. They begin in life. Final term arrived quietly, but it carried weight. Everyone knew it was important. Exams were close. Pressure filled the air. Even laughter sounded careful. I felt it too, pressing on my chest each morning I woke up. This time I did not fear the bell. I rose before it rang, folded my blanket, and whispered a short prayer. That still surprised me. Leadership duties increased. I was made assistant house leader. The responsibility scared me more than punishment ever did. People now watched my actions closely. I could not pretend anymore. One morning, a prefect accused a junior wrongly. The girl cried, shaking. Old Charity would have ignored it. New Charity spoke up. "Ma, please check again," I said politely. Mrs. Offamanta did. The junior was innocent. Afterward, she looked at me and nodded once. That nod felt heavy with meaning. Later that night, fear crept in. What if I failed exams? What if I disappointed everyone? I remembered my first days here. The crying, the anger, the kneeling under the sun. If I survived that, I told myself I could survive anything. For the first time, I trusted my growth. Exams began. The hall was silent except for pens scratching paper. My heart beat fast, but my mind stayed calm. I read each question carefully. No rusing. No panic. Days passed in a blur of tests and late-night revision. My friends and I supported each other quietly. There was no competition, only shared hope. One afternoon, a teacher praised my essay. "This shows maturity," she said. I smiled, thinking of the girl who once slept through lessons. The real test came outside the exam hall. A rumor spread about leaked questions. Some girls planned to cheat. They invited me. My heart raced. This was easy power. The old way. I remembered my father's eyes, my mother's tears, Mrs. Offamanta's calm voice. "I won't," I said. They laughed. I walked away, shaking. When the rumor reached management, investigations followed. Punishments were given. That night, guilt mixed with relief in my chest. For the first time, I had chosen right even when no one was watching. That choice felt like true discipline. Results day arrived. My hands trembled as I scanned the list. My name appeared near the top. Not first, but earned. Tears filled my eyes. Not from pride, but from gratitude. Mrs. Offamanta called me later. "You did well," she said. "Thank you, Ma." She studied my face. "Remember, character matters more than grades." I nodded. During closing assembly, seniors gave speeches. When my turn came, my knees shook. I spoke honestly about pride, pain, and growth. About learning respect. The juniors listened closely. After assembly, the rich new girl hugged me. "Thank you," she whispered. Packing my box that night felt different from my first day. I folded my clothes slowly. I swept my corner one last time. I touched the bed near the door. It had taught me how to wake up. More than that, it taught me who I was. Returning home after final term felt like closing a chapter. My parents welcomed me with joy. Neighbors greeted me differently. Some smiled with surprise. Some with approval. Life at home tested me daily. Drivers came late. Food burned once. A maid made a mistake. Each time I paused. Sometimes I failed. Sometimes I raised my voice. But now I corrected myself. I apologized. One evening, my father sat beside me. "You've changed," he said. "I'm still learning," I replied. I began helping at home. Simple things. Sweeping. Washing plates. My mother watched quietly, tears shining. At church, whispers followed me. Not of shame this time, of respect. I realized something important. Boarding school did not just prepare me for exams. Prepared me for life outside protection. And life was watching. One afternoon, I visited Sapel House. Mrs. Offamanta stood at the same spot, calm and steady. When she saw me, she smiled. That smile shocked me most of all. "You came back," she said. "I wanted to thank you." She shook her head. "You did the work." As I walked through the compound, memories flooded back. Fear, tears, growth. I understood now. Discipline was not punishment. It was love wearing a hard face. As I left the gate, I felt ready. Not perfect, but aware. And awareness, I had learned, was the beginning of wisdom. Life after boarding school tested me in quiet ways. There were no bells anymore. No punishments waiting around corners. No Mrs. Offamanta watching from a distance. Instead, there were choices. Every single day, I enrolled in a new school closer to home. On my first day, students whispered when they heard my name. Some knew my past. Some only saw confidence and money. A girl mocked a cleaner openly one afternoon. Laughter followed. My chest tightened. The old Charity would have laughed too. Or worse, joined in. I stood up. "That's not right," I said. The room went silent. Later, the cleaner thanked me quietly. That small thank you stayed with me all day. That night, I wrote in my journal something I learned in boarding school. Character shows when no one forces you. I finally understood why my parents had made that painful decision. They had not sent me away to lose me. They had sent me away to find myself. Months passed. I grew more comfortable with my new self. I still loved nice things. I still enjoyed comfort. But comfort no longer controlled me. One weekend, my parents hosted a large gathering. Relatives filled the house. Food ran late. Noise rose. I helped serve. I smiled. I apologized when mistakes happened. An aunt pulled my mother aside. "What did you do to this girl?" she asked. My mother smiled through tears. Later that night, my father called me. "I'm proud of you," he said. Those words meant more than gifts. I realized something then. Respect given freely feels better than fear forced. And discipline, once hated, had become my guide. One day I received a letter. It was from Spoilt House. A junior girl wrote to thank me for helping her adjust. She said my story gave her hope. I cried while reading it. I finally understood the full circle. Pain had become purpose. That evening, I visited my old room and looked around. It no longer defined me. I was no longer the girl who shouted to feel important. I was someone who listened, and listening had changed everything. Years later, I returned to Spoilt House again, this time as a guest speaker. Standing before rows of girls, I saw fear, pride, hope, and confusion in their eyes. I smiled gently. "I was once like you," I said. "Angry, proud, untouchable." Silence filled the hall. I told them the truth. Not the soft version. The real one. Some cried. Some nodded. Mrs. Offamanta sat at the back, watching. When I finished, she clapped once. That single clap meant more than applause ever could. Today, when people look at me, they see confidence. They don't see the kneeling under the sun. They don't see the tears. They don't see the breaking and rebuilding. But I remember. I remember the spoilt girl who thought money was power. I remember the school that refused to bend. And I remember the woman who taught me that discipline and love can live together. I am still learning, but I am no longer lost. Because discipline did not destroy me. It shocked me, and it saved me.